Part 7. Unusual Skills. I opened my eyes and saw my spear in my hands, a magic circle wrapped around its shaft just like every other time I had summoned it. Strangely, for a moment after opening my eyes, I could have sworn I had seen a red thread connecting my hand and the spear, but after focusing my vision, nothing was there. "That was a trip," I joked. Suma, still sounding amazed, interjected, "Do you know what you just did, Jake?" "Summoned my spear," I said. "No. Well, yes, but that is not what I meant. You just shadow cast on your first attempt. No one has ever done that. At least not as far as I know." Suma told me. "Really? It was pretty easy, though," I said, confused. Suma cocked her head and ruffled her feathers. "Jake, I have a question. You said humans cannot do magic, but you know what shadow casting is and performed it on your first try. Not only that, but you figured out how to summon your spear in less than a minute. How?" Suma asked, sounding extremely confused. "Well, I know what shadow casting is from watching anime, which is a form of entertainment like a play, and as far as I know, humans can't do magic. Maybe since your world has it, the rules of my world don't apply, or perhaps since you bonded us, I developed the ability. In truth, I have no clue, and we could spend all day guessing," I explained. I cannot say I have ever heard of a species without the ability to use magic suddenly developing into prodigies. There has to be a logical explanation. Suma's voice was thin, questioning, as she attempted to figure it out. I admit I was confused as well, but without any solid evidence, guessing was all we would be doing. "Jake, I want to try something," she said. "What?" I asked. "I want you to try and cast a spell, something you have never been exposed to before," Suma explained. "Okay, but how will I know to do it if I have never seen it before?" I wondered. "I will show you at once, then I want you to try it," she said. "Okay, I guess I'm ready," I said, not fully understanding why. "No, we need to go to the academy that I first summoned you to. There is something we require," she told me. We started walking to the academy, and on the way, I asked Suma why she wanted me to do this spell. "I want to see if you can perform any magic, or only spells that have been bonded to you like the summoning spell. Since you have never seen this spell, and it is not a bonding type, it will be a good test." "Bonding type? I take it that means there are more kinds?" I asked. "Quite a few. There is bonding, which you have seen. These include summoning and dominations, and can either be rites or rituals." As she spoke, she fluttered along beside me, switching from hovering like a hummingbird to flying like a dove. "Then there are creation types, where you take elements from nature to make something new, like taking dirt, water, and wood, then reshaping it into something usable like a building. Then there is transformation magic. This is causing something to change from one form to another, like water into ice or steam." "Oh, okay, so which one will I be doing?" I asked. "We're going to have you try to do a simple transformation spell, water into steam. It is the type of magic beginners learn," she said. "And what are we getting from the school?" I wondered. "Is it something I need to perform the spell?" "No, simple magic like this does not require any additional ingredients. We are going to need something to see whether you are controlling magic around you or producing magic yourself," she said. We walked for a solid 20 minutes, and my feet began to ache. Once we arrived at the academy, I plopped myself down on the floor and took off my shoes. Suma flew off down the halls to retrieve her items. I removed my socks and checked my feet for blisters. I didn't see any, but my feet were still sore. Suma come back carrying several small stones and a tablet in her feet, and a moment later another nymph, a darker blue and slightly larger, flew up behind her and landed. "Jake, this is my old professor. He said he would assist us." "It can understand us?" the other nymph asked, curious. "Yes, it can," I said jokingly. The nymph backed up slightly, then calmed down and stepped a bit closer to inspect me. "You keep strange familiars, young one, but knowing you, I suppose I should have expected it. You always were an abnormal student," the nymph said, sounding amused. "Jake, what happened to your feet? You removed your coverings again," Suma said, finally noticing my removed shoes and socks. "Yeah, sorry, we have just been walking so much lately. My feet are sore. We really need to get horses or cars or something," I said, rubbing my foot. "I do not know what a horse or a car is, but we can take a rest if you need to. After we do this test, I can send you home again." You have been here long enough, half the day at least, Suma said. I hadn't been keeping track. All I knew was it had been a while. She had summoned me each day for training, but I never felt the need to complain as I was always put back right when I left, although a bit more tired. On the bright side, these longer days have helped me get back on a normal sleep schedule. Thanks. Okay, let's do it, I told her. I stood up and leaned Destiny against a wall. I had been carrying it this whole time. On the way to the academy, Suma mentioned that I could send it away as well as bring it back, but I hadn't tried that yet. As I wondered where it would go, Suma handed me a stone with spirals of blue and streaks of red, then told me to repeat after her. It wasn't very heavy, no more than a pound, but it was the size of a baseball, so it felt too light for its size. Suma placed a bowl on the floor, then used magic to fill it with water. Then she took her place opposite to me, about 3 feet away on a small perch. She began to speak, and I repeated after her, "Angnol dose om pesa. Angnol dose om pesa," I said. Nothing happened, and Suma looked disappointed. I glanced at the stone expecting some kind of reaction, but none occurred. What was that supposed to do? I asked. Well, if you had produced the magic yourself, the blue would have turned green, and if you controlled the magic in the area, the red would have gone black. Neither happened, she said. She shook her head and waddled back and forth on her perch for a moment before sharply saying, "Oh, of course, you said it in my language and not your own. Try it in your native tongue." Okay, I said. But what does all that mean? It is a command of sorts. You need to channel the magical energy to accomplish a task, then describe what needs to happen. For turning water into steam, you would say, "Boil the water," Suma explained. Okay, I think I understand, I said. Suma gave me the go-ahead, and I tried to imagine what she told me. Basically, I need to channel this magical energy stuff, then use it to accomplish a task. To do it, I need to describe the task. I wondered to myself if that was all. How did this magical energy know what to do? I figured it had to have been some kind of mental image that the energy used as a kind of building block. If that was the case, then magic could be a kind of extension of a person's thoughts. I had a theory and was ready to test it. I focused on the feeling of when I summoned Destiny. There was a kind of gentle yet fierce power lurking nearby whenever I did it, like a monster hidden just under the surface of a still lake. I needed to make that monster come out of hiding, so I focused on looking for that feeling. In my mind, I imagined standing on the surface of a pool, then reaching a hand into it. I felt that same power begin to flow. Soon it was as strong as when I summoned Destiny, but I didn't stop there. I imagined reaching further in, all the way to my elbow, and that feeling became much more tangible. "Jake!" Suma shouted urgently. I broke the image when I opened my eyes and saw both nymphs looking concerned. Then I looked around the room and understood why. Planks and stones that had been stacked on shelves were on the ground, like a windstorm had blown through in an instant and gone just as fast. I looked down at the stone. The blue had turned green, and the red was black. Part 8. A Magic Test. What happened? I wondered, as I looked around at the state of the room. When you started using magic, at first the stone turned green and we were satisfied, but quickly afterward the red changed to black in an instant, which is highly unusual in and of itself. But before we could get your attention, the whole room was engulfed in a swirling mass of magical energy. We were blown around the room, and only after managing to regain control were we able to snap you out of it, Suma explained. I looked around the room again, taking in all of the chaos. It wasn't too bad to me, but for small creatures like the nymphs, it was probably like a hurricane. "I'm sorry," I said. "I didn't mean—" Just then, I noticed that the older nymph was shaking and nuzzling his left wing. It was broken. I rushed over to him. "Oh no! I'm sorry, I'm so sorry!" I yelled. "Jake, do not worry. Our magic can heal him. Let me handle it," Suma said. Her voice wasn't angry, but calm and even. She wasn't trying to chastise me, but reassure me that nothing had been done that couldn't be fixed. She stood over the older, larger nymph, and a magic circle formed around the two of them. A light began emitting from the nymph's injured wing, like glitter moving in a wave across its surface. Then the wing jerked itself back into the correct alignment. Soon the circle faded, and he moved it around to make sure it was okay. "Are you okay?" Suma asked. "I'm perfectly fine, thank you, little one." the nymph said and pressed his wings back to his body. He turned to me. You are an oddity I have never come across before in my lifetime. Such power and in a summon no less. Tell me, are there more like you? More humans, yes, but I am the only human in history to use magic, as far as I know anyway, I told him. A shame, he replied. I would have liked to have a familiar like you myself. He said, Jake is not just a familiar, he is a friend. He even named me. Suma interjected. A name? Yes, I am now known as Suma, she told him. A familiar naming its master. That's unheard of, he replied. I am not his master, we are allies, partners, she told him. Besides, it is not like I could if I wanted to. His force of will and life force density are far beyond my abilities to control. That piqued my interest. Life force density? I asked. Do you remember when I tried taking your life force into myself and got injured? Suma said, but was interrupted by the older nymph. You were injured in an attempt to take some of his life force? I taught you better than that. Never try taking on a new familiar's life force all at once. Start with 30% or less, he chided. I started with 10% and it still knocked me on my tail feathers. Suma corrected him. He looked shocked, then confused. 10% and you were still injured? He asked. How remarkable, he added after a brief silence. Jake has the densest life force I have ever encountered, Suma said. It can't be that much, I denied. Jake, I can handle the life force of several Borog beasts at the same time. I could not even handle 1/10 of yours. There are high mages and court mages that train their whole lives to achieve what you were born with. And you are an untrained amateur who only just learned they even had magic, Suma explained. I was honestly bewildered. I had never considered the possibility that I had magic, let alone that I was good at it in any way. As those thoughts marinated inside my head, Suma and the other nymph said their goodbyes, and she apologized for wrecking the room. I offered to help clean, but he said that the school used magic to clean itself, and that he could handle activating the ability alone. I was exhausted, and Suma saw it, so she sent me home. I closed my eyes in her world and opened them on my couch, where she had taken me from this morning. My feet still ached, and now I was too full of questions to sleep. At least, that's what I thought. But I was snoring within 5 minutes of my head hitting my pillow. Hey, Jake, my boss said, startling me from behind. Goodness, I yelped in surprise. Oh, hey, Mr. Vidal, sorry for being late. I overslept. Yesterday was pretty hectic, I explained. It's no problem, everyone is late sometimes, he said calmly. Mr. Vidal was a great boss, forgiving, willing to compromise, and good at leading us rather than just giving out orders. I've had some bad bosses before, but he wasn't one of them. What made yesterday so hectic? Did something happen after you left here? He asked. No one, not even my family, knew about Suma in that other world, and I definitely wasn't going to tell them. Yeah, a friend of mine called me and needed some help with stuff, so we spent hours working on that. I didn't even get to sleep until 10 a.m. this morning, I told him. Wow, so you only got like 4 hours of sleep? Dang, what was so important? He asked, surprised. I work afternoon shifts from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., so normally I just go to sleep after I get home and wake up for college at 10 o'clock. Thankfully, I didn't have classes today. Oh, he was having medical issues, so I took him to the hospital and brought him home this morning. I lied. Well, I hope he gets to feeling better, and if you need to leave an hour or two early today to catch up on some sleep or take care of your friend, that's fine. Nothing important is going on today, Mr. Vidal said as he went to his office. With that, I got to work at my computer. My job was simple: take information from forms and transfer them to digital files on our computers. I trudged on for a few hours until my stomach started to rumble at about 6 o'clock, but I kept instant noodles in my desk to tide me over until I could leave. Just as I put the noodles in the microwave, I got a call, but not on my phone. Jake, are you there? Suma's voice said in my head. I pulled out my phone and placed it to my ear to make it seem like I was talking on the phone. Hey, Suma, what's up? I said. Are you free to be summoned? I need a bit of help, she said. Not at the moment. If I leave now, I might be too tired to finish work when I get back. Can it wait another? I looked down at my phone for the time. 2 hours? Yes, I think it can wait. Just call me when you are free and I will explain, she said. Okay, see you in a bit, I said and put my phone back in my pocket. A second later, the microwave beeped and my soup was ready. I took it and a fork back to my desk to eat. As I sat down, my coworker, Melanie, walked up to me. "Jake, do you have a copy of the Greeley file on your computer? Mine got corrupted in last week's power outage and they requested a copy to be sent to them," she asked. Sure, I think so," I said and sat my noodles down to search my computer. "Here we are," I said and emailed her a copy of the file. "Okay, I sent it to your work email," I said. "You're a lifesaver, Jake," she said and walked away. I went back to eating and checked my phone for messages. A text from my mom asking me to stop by after work to get a few things from storage from when I still lived there. They had mentioned it before, but I kept forgetting. Mostly because of everything that has been happening with Suma. While I ate, I messaged her telling her that I would be by after work to collect everything. I also thought about how much had changed for me over these last few weeks, how much I had seen. It was like going to space or being the first man on Mars, but no one knew. I took my boss up on his offer and clocked out 45 minutes early. I drove to my mom's and gave her a big hug as soon as I saw her. She had just seen me last week, but it had been twice that long, at least from my perspective. My mother was a wonderful woman, and my dad had passed away last year, so she was always trying to keep busy, which was the reason I had to clean out the storage shed so that she could use the space for her latest project or hobby. "How have you been?" she asked as she handed me a box to put into my car. "I've been really good. Made a new friend, Suma," I told her. "Oh, and when will I get to meet this Suma?" she asked. My mom had been at me for years to get a girlfriend. "It's not like that, Mom. She is just a friend, and anyway, she lives far away. In another country," I said. "Another country? How did you meet then?" she asked. "Oh, we met years ago, back when I was still in high school," I told her. "But I thought you said she was a new friend?" my mom wondered. "Yeah. I mean, I knew her, but I didn't know her. We just reconnected when we bumped into one another. She works in America as a history professor." I lied. "What was she doing in England, visiting family?" Mom asked. "Yeah, her parents still live here, so she comes to see them for holidays and birthdays and stuff," I said. We talked some more and I lied some more, but a few minutes later my car was packed and I was on my way home. Just as I got home and laid the last of the boxes on my living room floor, Suma shouted in my head, "Jake, I do not know what you are doing, but get ready to look as scary as possible." "Ah, loud," I said as I began to disappear. I had no time to think. The next thing I knew, I was standing in the middle of an alleyway, and Suma was standing or hiding behind me. To make matters worse, we were cornered by 3 lager, dark-colored nymphs and their incredibly angry-looking beast familiars. If you love engaging stories like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated with all the latest episodes from FY Stories.